I call to order the Monday, July 9th, 2018, Verona City Council member at 7:02 p.m. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Next, we will have the clerk read the roll.
Alderperson Cronin.
Present.
Alderperson Gaskell.
Present.
Alderperson Journey.
Present.
Alderperson Kemp.
Here.
Alderperson Cole.
Here.
Alderperson Ricky.
Here.
Alderperson Tutte.
Present.
Thank you for that. Next up, we will have public comment. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so. And if you could introduce yourself and give your address, that would be helpful too.
Mayor Diaz, members of the Common Council, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Noah Roberts and I'm president of the Verona Area School Board. I come here for two reasons tonight. First, to provide you with information and an update regarding our efforts thus far to satisfy the requirements set forth by the city that the new high school site contain 2 access points, and to ask the Common Council for help in resolving this matter. The district has been working cooperatively with the city since 2016 to thoroughly vet all available options as they pertain to securing 2 viable access points to the new high school site. With the district's inability to reasonably secure the necessary right-of-way to provide an access point at 9 Mound Road, we are now at a point where we, as a district, have exhausted our ability to act on this matter without further direction from the council. At this point, only 3 viable options remain. These options are as such. Option 1, eminent domain to secure access to 9 Mound Road. After discussions between staff, the district, and the city, the district and the city agreed that condemnation authority lies solely within the jurisdiction of the city. The landowner of the property in question has requested between $3 and $4 million for the acquisition of a portion of his property necessary for this connection. This is not feasible for the district, and since the entire property has an assessed value of approximately $560,000. As such, the only option left to successfully complete an access point off of 9 Mound Road would be for the city to exercise eminent domain. Option 2, the high school site maintains a single access point. Although it was mentioned this past summer that a single access point would be viable in the short term, both the district and the city agree that this is not a long-term solution. However, since the developer's agreement requires 2 access points, only the city can make the decision to permit a single access point as a short-term solution, enabling the district to obtain the necessary occupancy permit upon the completion of the construction and allowing us to open the high school according to our long-standing timeline. Option 3, reconsidering an access road connecting to Paoli. This option was the original access point planned for by both the city and the district. This option has remained in the city's comprehensive plan since at least 2007. And the district and the city work cooperatively towards a high school access point at this location beginning as early as 2015. This option offers a long-term solution for providing 2 access roads for the high school and is in keeping with the original plans contemplated by both the city and the district when the land was originally purchased for the high school site. While this option requires city support in order to form a joint appeal to the DOT, the district is prepared to make this appeal with the city's full support. A connector road between Paoli Road and West Verona Avenue would provide significant mutual benefit to both the city and the district and would adhere to and satisfy the city's comprehensive plan. This option is a win-win for the city of Verona, the Verona Area School District, and our tax-paying constituencies. Although the district maintains a preference for option 3, we are willing to move forward with any of these 3 options. The decision on which option to pursue rests solely with the council. As you consider next steps, I respectfully ask that you keep in mind 2 factors. First, we are at a point in this process where the next step, a decision on which of these three options to pursue rest solely in the hands of the council. Eminent domain requires city execution, a single access point requires city approval, and a Paoli road connection requires the city's full partnership. To this end, the district respectfully asks that the council provide direction to city staff as well as to the district regarding which option should be pursued as we move forward. Second, after years of work scrutinizing access options, we are at a point where a decision must be made now if we are to avoid incurring unnecessary and consequential costs. Costs that come at the expense of both our children's futures as well as both your constituents and the constituents of the Verona Area School District's taxpayer dollars. Grading has already occurred for the roads on the new VAHS site up to Military Ridge Trail, and we have begun pouring the foundation for our new high school. A school which will serve as the cornerstone for both our school district and this community. With construction well underway and multiple of our schools at or above capacity, the cost of delaying a decision, even temporarily, is substantial. The district is prepared to immediately move forward with any of the above options. We simply ask for the council to determine which path they are willing to support in this meeting or the next. In order for the district to open our new school on time and to stay on budget, it is imperative that the council make a decision on one of these options as quickly as possible. We are asking for both your help and your partnership. To avoid any further delay, we ask that you take official action regarding which access option to pursue so we may move forward together with this once-in-a-generation project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for that. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to the approval of the minutes from the June 25th, 2018 Common Council meeting. Questions, comments, corrections, or motions?
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Rieke. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Cronin. Last chance for corrections. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. For mayor's business, got nothing. Announcements from the council. Alder Gaskell.
Yeah, the first of 3 concerts in Harriet, I think, on Thursdays starts this Thursday. And it's also food cart night, so it should be a good one. With actual real food and not just Kona Ice. No offense to people that like Kona Ice over the age of 11, but it should be really good and a nice night too, so hopefully people come out.
Thank you. Other announcements? Seeing none, we will move on to the administrator's report.
Great, thank you. We've got two items this evening. First, Dane County City and Villages Association, or DCCVA, will be holding its next regular membership meeting at 12 noon Wednesday, July 18th in the village of McFarland. At this meeting, they'll be establishing the goals and priorities for their upcoming year. They've just gone through an election process. They've got a new executive committee, and will be interested in hearing from all the membership entities regarding potential goals and objectives for this upcoming year. They will also be sending out a survey to members, and everyone on council is a member of the organization. They're asking for information regarding the goals and priorities, and they hope to have the surveys filled out by July 18th. The second item is early voting is occurring now in City of Verona for the August 14th primary election. You can early vote between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. at City Hall. On Saturday, August 4th, you can vote 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. August 6th through 19th, you can vote 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Connected with that, just a reminder that the August 13th meeting, it will not take place. We're moving it to the 16th so that the council chambers can be set up for the August 14th election. So make sure, remember it's the Thursday, August 16th for the council meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for the administrator? Alder Cronin?
Is the information on early voting up on Verona's website?
It should be under the election page. If not, we'll make sure it is.
Alder Tuche?
Are you reading my mind? I'll be honest, I'm thinking about the school board request. I don't know if I can, serious feedback here. I'd like to learn more what we can do for the school district. So I'm hoping city staff can prepare something for us so that we can understand what rules we can or cannot follow. I'm reading this chapter 32 document as quick as I can here in the state laws, but yeah, I'd like to learn more and learn what our options are and try to respond to their requests as soon as possible. So
Yeah, we have it under old business as
do
well.
we really? I apologize.
Other questions or comments for Mr. Murkowski? I did want to say I like the poster that we have. So the early voting poster, whoever designed it, it looks good. Is something going to be posted on the city's Facebook page?
Yes, yes, we will. I did have one other thing. We do have the name tags for council. There's a request that when council members went to different events, that they would have something to have their name and title for. That was the reason for the name tags. So.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we will have the engineer's report.
All right, first off, I want to apologize for the late submittal. Hopefully it was emailed to you this afternoon, and I put a hard copy on your, in the place in front of you. I tried to make up for it by taking some pictures of the projects over the weekend. It was a great day for a bike ride. I wanted to get out. Then once I figure I took them, you might as well see them too. So the first project is the downtown streets. That's the South Schumann and Park Lane projects. All the sidewalk has been poured for those two as of last Thursday. The retaining wall on South Schumann's complete. The final street grading should commence next week. The last section of paving, which is south of Church Street down to Railroad Street, should occur next week. Restoration work behind the sidewalks and in the terrace is planned after the paving. There are 3 parking lot projects in the city. All of the paving and concrete work has been completed for each of the 3 lots. It's the senior center, the old library, and the new library. The main entrance to the current library is open, so that's great news. The patch for the water main connection at the senior center is currently scheduled for next week, and it'll be done with the paving on South Schumann that I mentioned earlier. Landscaping at the new library remains to be completed. That's a joint project between the city and the contractor. And then last, the striping, as you can see from the pictures, nothing is striped yet. They're working on establishing a schedule that works for the contractor, the senior center, the new library, and the old library, and getting all those schedules coordinated. Third project's on Harriet Street. All of the concrete curb and gutter has been placed. The pavement has been pulverized. You can see it's gravel there in the picture. Currently, the contractor is removing and replacing the soft areas in the base course. Those will settle if we pave over the top of them and create a bad pavement area. So we want to take care of those before we put a surface over the top of it. The paving is planned by the end of the week, but it may need to be extended depending on how many of those soft spots they find. On East Verona Avenue, there's a project kind of near Old PB as you're getting on to 151. Traffic was recently switched to the inside lanes that were newly paved. The work continues on the outside lanes. The old pavement's been removed, and you can see it's all gravel in the picture. Grading should be completed this week, and then paving is currently planned for next week. The old PB bridges, this is the reason that old PB is closed. The bridge over Badger Mill Creek is complete. That's the northerly bridge. And the southerly bridge was removed and has been replaced with culvert pipes. The contractor will build the cast-in-place end walls over the next 2 weeks. They'll be importing a lot of fill material to raise the road to meet you can see in the lower right picture, the bridge is a little bit higher than the grade, so they'll be bringing in dirt and building concrete approach slabs for that new bridge. The contractor's shown that they should be able to meet the scheduled opening day of August 17th, so that's also great news. I did take a picture from the pedestrian bridge, and you can see it's a really nice looking bridge. So good news there. Next project is on Locust and County M. This is associated with the ped and bike plan improvements. The sidewalk is complete from south of Factory Street to the south end of the Carnes property. And the clearing is completed on the west side of M over the Badger Mill Creek and also on the west side of Locust Drive for the new sidewalk and trail. Work for the next few weeks will entail working on the box culvert extension, continuing with the grading, installing base course and sidewalk, and the curb should be poured on Highway M the week of July 23rd. The Big County M expansion is the next project. That's kind of a joint Verona-Madison project going north out of town. The contractor's mostly working on the various areas of the City of Madison section of the project. Traffic on County PD will have a new traffic pattern soon, which moves both directions of eastbound and westbound to the south of the existing roadway. If you've driven by there, you've noticed they're building a bridge in the northwest quadrant. Moving traffic will allow them to complete the remainder of that bridge. The schedule shows that grading may begin in the City of Verona section, which is from Cross Country Road to PD, as early as this week. And underground work in that area is anticipated to begin in early August. County M and Liberty Park traffic signals. This is on the southeast side of town. Work is scheduled to begin there after Labor Day, so nothing really to update. In Well 6, the Wisconsin Public Service Commission has approved the construction of Well 6, and construction is anticipated to begin in late fall after the other permit approvals are granted.
Thank you for your report. Any questions or comments for the engineer? Alder Gaskell?
Excuse me. Regarding the old PB bridges, are we striping them at all for a bike lane or a fog line? Do you know?
They're wide enough for a bike lane. The bridge may be wide enough for a path also. But yeah, I know the shoulders are much wider than they were before, and
Okay.
it's my understanding they'll be striped.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions, comments? I'm sorry, I didn't understand that signal. Are we fine? Or did you want to?
Yeah, Theron's telling me they're 4 foot
Oh, okay.
shoulders.
Okay, urban paved section. Other questions, comments? I have one. I don't know if everyone saw this, but this is like a really nice looking engineer's report with pictures and everything. I hope it's on the website. But I found the pictures super helpful. Not that I'm going to expect that in the future, but.
Sure. It's the trouble with being late. Now I've raised the bar and I've got to do it next time. Huh?
All right. We will move on to committee reports. First up, we have Finance Committee. Alder Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to present a motion for discussion and possible action regarding the payment of the bills. Do I have a second? For this,
One clarification. Could you
Sure.
say the amount?
oh yeah, sorry, for the amount of $1,028,462.19.
Thank you. And a second by Alder Cronin.
Okay. Just for the sake of discussion, this is a little bigger than we're normally used to. There are obviously a number of construction projects ongoing. AECom is one, and then there's also the Fitch-Verona EMS District second half operating expense that was $215,749.50. And then there's also construction work, contract work with Parisi Construction in the amount of $383,677.15. Nothing further at this time.
You've heard the explanation. Questions, comments on paying the bills? Seeing none, all those in favor of paying the bills say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Alder Kemp?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Next up, we will go on to 10B, Plan Commission. Alder Gaskell.
Yes, thank you. We only have one thing on our agenda tonight. Item 10B1 is a planned unit development concept plan review for a proposed 28,849 square foot commercial development to be located in the West End, south of West Verona Avenue, west of West End Circle, and east of Wall Street. The applicant is requesting a planned unit development concept review to allow for the construction of a 28,849 square feet of commercial space in the West End. The Plan Commission reviewed the plan on Monday, July 2nd. Comments from the Plan Commission included compliments about the building design, appreciation for the pedestrian connections, and support for the commercial development. Council is encouraged to provide feedback and recommendations to the applicant on the concept. No formal motion is required because we are at the conceptual review stage. And I will add that it's, if anyone is interested in looking at the packet from last Monday, it's a really phenomenal development and really did a nice job with everything, and I think we'd be really lucky to have it built out.
Thank you for the explanation. Feedback for the developer on the planned unit development. Alder Cronin.
I did look at the materials that they provided and second what Alder Gaskell mentioned about it being a really nice development and an asset for Verona. I would just point out, however, in the picture that's included in our packet, it's listed as being on East Verona Avenue or labeled as being on East Verona Avenue, and it's on West Verona Avenue, and it's also mislabeled in the description where it mentions East Verona Avenue a couple times. All the rest of the materials, as far as I saw, were correct, but I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Alder Touche?
I didn't watch the meeting, but did the school district weigh in at all for this development? I mean, this is like right in their front yard. Any feedback from them on this?
I don't think so, but perhaps Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. The plans were provided to the school district. It was also actually incorporated in their traffic impact analysis. So when they did the TIA actually for the school, the square footage of the commercial space was included in that. But I did send it off to the superintendent. I don't recall any specific comments on it, but I don't recall any concerns either. So they're aware of it, and it's consistent with what has been talked about with the school for probably about the last 6 months to a year.
I think I might be stating the obvious, but I think our superintendent is here. Do you have any feedback for this property?
No, it looked like a fine development. I don't think there was any detail about what exactly. Sure, it will be conceptual years some of it will anyway. I'm assuming. Maybe.
All right, I'm good. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Alder Kemp?
Do we have any idea to just get a little more specifics of what types of commercial opportunities are going to be available, or that the developer would like to try and have in this property at this time, or not yet?
Yeah, if you'd like to clarify.
Not a problem. Good evening, everybody. My name's Dan Seeley. I'm with Steve Brown Apartments, for those of you who I haven't met before, which there are actually a handful of you now. Congratulations to all of you. To answer your question, Alder Kemp, we are really sort of thinking kind of high-end, more boutique-y retail establishments. We have a couple of complementary uses in mind. We don't have anybody under contract right now. We're working with a brokerage firm to try to attract some and lock some up. But really sort of complementary uses. You know, in an ideal world, it's something like a coffee shop and maybe some service spots like a yoga's place or some sort of fitness or active lifestyle type complementary things, you know, maybe an apparel store or a bike shop or something like that. That's kind of what we're targeting. We want it to be a destination place that people will be able to stop and spend a little bit of time at, and not just sort of your more traditional kind of convenience spot that has some, you know, a Verizon store or whatever it might be. No offense to those types of establishments, but that's not exactly what we're looking for.
Okay.
More of a lifestyle center is really what the target is.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Alder Cronin?
So would that include trying to attract any restaurants to that?
Yeah, we're looking at, primarily regional and some local options. Obviously, if a large national that was the right fit was interested, that would be something that we would try to lock up. But we're really interested in sort of some regional and more local flavor. Restaurant would be okay. Something along the lines of a Panero. That's not necessarily right, but it's the right kind of idea. Certainly no fast food, nothing along those lines or anything like that. Does that help? Okay.
Any other questions or comments? No, go ahead.
I can tell you what my kids want.
Yeah.
Starbucks and noodles.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And if they can move all your student body through there that quickly, then you got a winner.
I've joked that we could probably take all 30,000 square feet and make it one giant Starbucks and do just fine, but that's a little outside their business model, and I'm not sure it's really what any of us are looking for, even though it would certainly be profitable.
Yeah.
All right, one dissenter.
Any other questions, comments? I basically still think what I think at Plan Commission, largely positive, and I'm fine with the sign exemptions, and I think a lot of the other stuff looks good too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Last chance. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Next up, Alder Touche with Public Works, Sewer and Water Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First up, item C1 I'm going to make a motion to approve a term sheet agreement with T-Mobile Black Dot regarding lease of water tower space.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alder Kemp. Alder Touche.
T-Mobile, otherwise known as Black Dot, has submitted a lease extension proposal or term sheet for cellular equipment on Tower 2 located near Wayland Road and South Main Street. The current contract terminates at the end of this year, or at the end of 2019. The current and proposed financial agreement period is very similar to what we have with them right now. The proposed terms are a monthly rental fee of $2,495.75 over the next 4 years, guaranteeing total income to the city of $118,069. If the term sheet is approved, Mr. Kleinmeyer and our Public Works Director will work with T-Mobile to get a final contract.
You've heard the explanation. Questions, comments on the motion?
I do want to add a few more comments. During committee level, we did ask Theron, our Public Works Director, to kind of compare this contract with our other contracts with other providers like US Cellular, Verizon, and Sprint, and this pretty much falls in line, and I think we've started the process of being more consistent with our carriers, charging consistent rates and measuring them equally. So that's all.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion approving the agreement with T-Mobile Black Dot regarding lease of water tower space, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Touche.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next up, item 10C2. I'm making a motion to approve the purchase for lands necessary for parcel 2 for the Transportation Project Plat 100-00-230-531-0-230-173 under project ID 2016-123 County Highway PD.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Second by Alder Kemp. Alder Touche.
I want to actually ask Mr. Jacobson to speak on this item. I think this is something that we need to consider to go into closed session to dig more details in the contract and go from there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So, city staff and the appraisal team and our professional negotiator have worked with the representatives of this landowner on the purchase. The property itself is located along County Trunk PD on the north side, west of University Ridge and east of Woods Road. This project is the expansion of County Trunk PD between those same legs of streets from a 2-lane rural section to a full 4-lane boulevard section. The acquisition at hand here is a land sale only. It is a acquisition of 0.125 acres of right-of-way and 0.043 acres of temporary limited easement. And the offer presented to the owner based on our appraisal was $4,100. And we've received a counter offer that they've proposed to us that I would like to discuss with you further.
After hearing that explanation, it sounds like a motion to go into closed session would be in order. Alder Touche.
I'm going to make that motion. Here we go. I would like to make a motion to go into closed session. The common council may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin statute 19.85(1)(e) for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons deem a closed session necessary. The common council may reconvene in open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Second by Alder Cronin. And of course, motions to go into closed session are roll call votes. If the clerk would read the roll.
Mayor Diaz, can I ask you a question?
Oh,
Sorry to
certainly.
interrupt you. I know that you, and how you want to approach this is entirely up to the council. You do have 2 other items on your agenda, one of which I think is probably going to be discussed primarily in open session, and that being 11B. 11A that I think is primarily going to be discussed in closed session after there's something that, so it's just up to you as to whether or not you want to have more of a discussion, if you want to have everything go into closed session at the same time so that you're only coming back out once versus going into closed session now and then coming back out and then potentially doing it again.
I would rather do them individually because I think they're substantially different. So if the clerk would like to read the roll.
Alder Gaskell,
Aye.
Alder Journey,
Aye.
Alder Kemp,
Aye.
Alder Cole,
Aye.
Alder Ricky,
Aye.
Alder Touche,
Aye.
Alder Cronin.
Aye.
Thank you. And we're in closed session and we'll try to hurry in and out. All right. We are back in open session. Alder Touche.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to amend my original motion to include a final offer amount for the parcel number 2 to be a total of $7,425.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Gaskell. Anything further? Or?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, we're going to vote on the amendment to the motion first. All those in favor of amending it to the proper amount, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And now we're back on the main motion. Any comments? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the offer to purchase lands as previously described, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Touche.
That is it for Public Works.
Fantastic. Next up, we have old business discussion regarding a development agreement for Sugar Creek Commons, the project in tax increment district number 9. And who am I turning this over to?
I was just gonna say, is there, I mean, my belief is that we can have part of an open session discussion on A, but then staff is gonna recommend that you go into closed session because there are gonna be financial information shared. My belief is that discussion on 11B is probably going to be all in open session, and then the staff is certainly prepared to discuss that all in open session. So is there any chance you want to flip these two and have that discussion first?
Yeah, I think considering 2/3 of our audience is probably here for that. Actually, no, three out of 3, I would guess, is here for the school district. I would like to ask for unanimous consent to go on to 11B. All right. Next up, we will have the update on the Verona Area School District new high school project as it relates to the approved VASD development agreement.
Go ahead.
Okay. So last week or maybe 10 days ago, the attorney for the school district had contacted me, and he had, Mr. Fahey is their attorney, and he had kind of kept me up to speed on negotiations that the school district had with a particular property owner where the transportation plans associated with the high school project anticipated that we wanted to have a road go through this property to Nine Mound Road. And the bottom line is that even though there were good faith negotiations between the school district and the property owner, they were not able to reach an agreement. And so I received a letter dated June 28th from Mr. Fahey where he provided a little bit of explanation as to the process with the property owner, and then informed me that the school district would like to have further discussions with the city about really the transportation aspects of the high school or the new high school project. And that brings us back to the agreement that we've executed with the school district. And the agreement set forth a number of different public improvement projects, almost all related to the construction of roads, that the school district would need to complete in order to receive the payments that we had agreed to make as part of the development agreement. We're now in a situation where, at least at this point, the school district has not been able to reach an agreement with the property owner, is not going to be able to acquire the property, and so we're kind of back to the point where we have to, I think, have internal staff discussions on what is going to be, okay, if we can't do this road, then what is the appropriate alternative or alternative? Are there other alternatives to be considered? And I think that internally staff needs to look at that. It needs to look back at the traffic study that was performed before we executed the agreements. My expectation is then city staff will have to sit down with the school district staff to kind of say, hey, what about this? What about this? Maybe there is only one alternative. Maybe there's multiple alternatives. To the extent that there's multiple alternatives, then the city staff would have to come back to the Common Council and be prepared to make a recommendation. I'd say even if there's only one alternative, city staff's going to have to come back to the council and say, look, based on our internal review and our discussions with the school district staff, we believe that this is the alternative that should be pursued. You're going to have traffic-related issues regarding that alternative. You're also going to have financial aspects related to that alternative. I would tell you as city attorney, my position is, we do have an agreement with them, but the agreement was contingent upon, and I'm not saying we're gonna blow up the agreement, don't get me wrong, but the agreement anticipated that these projects would need to be completed. One of them now is not going to be able to be completed. That allows the city to reevaluate the funding that it's going to provide for the project. If you recall, a large percentage of our analysis with respect to the appropriate funding for the project was based on the traffic study that we had done. And all of this information has been shared with the school district, and one of the things that the traffic study did said, okay, if we do these projects, these properties, these adjacent properties are going to be benefited, and then we allocated costs accordingly. The change in plans here is necessarily going to impact the cost related to the traffic and transportation improvement, and it's also going to impact the allocation. And I think that we're likely going to go for, have to update that analysis as part of this process. I don't think that we're really in a position right now to start talking about alternatives. I think we don't have the details yet. We're certainly willing to answer whatever questions that you may have. Felt it was appropriate to get in front of the council as soon as possible, though, just to give you this update.
One question, the timeline outlined by President Roberts, would we be able to have a decision by the next meeting this month? Is that
I
realistic?
can't imagine that that's possible.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to address that. I want to make it clear, speaking personally, that staff feel they have enough time to do their research so that we do due diligence to our side of the process and our constituents. I do not want anyone to feel like we're certainly not making decisions tonight, and even 2 weeks from tonight I think would be really rushing this, because we do have to consider these three options. And I want to make sure that we've done it with careful consideration and not feel pressure from the school district because of their timeline to hurry up and do this. So that's my personal opinion. Staff should have as much time as they need to do this without delay, obviously, but not 2 weeks and you better have us the options. I think that's not fair.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Someone must have something to say. Alder Cronin?
Is there any, I know that there had been some discussion prior to this about the approaching the DOT. Is there any of that remaining that can be pulled out and looked at again, or are we starting from scratch with if we approach the DOT, how do we do it?
Theron or Jesse? Whoever feels most comfortable answering it.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. One of the key pieces with the DOT application, and just chime in here after I'm done speaking to add on to anything that I miss or misspeak on. There needs to be a detailed alternatives analysis completed to submit an application that the city supports to propose that access, because it breaks the access control that the DOT owns because of the state highway and the interchange system right there that they installed in 1996. So the TIA that was completed by the school district was never finalized. There was comments left open to be addressed. We moved forward in lieu of the timeline to push things forward. We mutually agreed on the improvements at hand that's in the current developers agreement. And so we would have to reevaluate that. Well, I shouldn't say we, the school district, would have to update that TIA, provide the alternatives necessary in there, which one of the alternatives that would have been in there was the current one at hand for the connection to South Nine Mound and potentially multiple others. So, Jess, if there's anything else you want to add on to that, please do
I
so.
can maybe add some of the schedule component too. So Theron mentioned we have to update the TIA for the DOT that says we've essentially exhausted other alternatives before we break their access control. So we would need the TIA updated first. Then there's a two-stage approval from the DOT. The DOT is organized into regions, so they have what's called the Southwest region controls this area. They would need to approve the break-in access at their region level, and then they have a central office access board that if the region approves, it would go to that central office board. And that process from the DOT is, in my opinion, pretty lengthy. So I don't know that we would know with any certainty that that option is feasible for, I'll say, 4 to 6 months.
Alder Shea.
Are you discussing the 500-foot? Is that what you're referring to with this DOT approval part?
It could be anything within their access rights. So they have about 1,270 feet. So any new road within that access control purchase would go through the process I just mentioned.
So if we find a way that's outside that 1,200, we're fine, correct? We
Correct.
don't need to go through those steps.
And that, for if you need a place on the map, the current Coding Place driveway is about at that spot.
Other questions, comments from the council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just add, a lot of you, in some ways, thankfully, weren't here for a lot of these hard decisions that we had to make to get here. But, safety definitely is very important. And I think I'd really like it if staff has the opportunity, if maybe at the next council meeting or sometime thereafter, to kind of rehash some of our discussions and decisions at the time why we felt 500 feet was too close to the highway. I know my biggest concern was traffic coming off the highway, coming into the city, backing up onto the highway. And it's not hard for me to imagine cars coming at 55, 65 miles an hour and bumping into cars that are waiting to get off the road. So, I mean, for me, these are probably students getting backed up, which scares me even more. So I have very, very strong concerns about considering that an option that close to the highway. But I'd love to hear all the other options at this time. So if the rest of you need a refresh on that, I'm sure staff can give that.
Just to echo Alder Touche's comments, yeah, I have the same concerns about the queue backing up onto 151 because that's a bad situation for any drivers. Just speed differential and stop cars next to cars going potentially 70, 80 miles an hour is not safe. And if there was another way to do it, I'd be open to options, but it really concerns me because money's one thing and we can't ignore it, but like when we're talking about human lives, especially of students, like I feel like that's not a risk I want to take. Other questions, comments from the council?
I think all three of the options that were discussed in the public comments have a lot of consequences and costs associated with it. So the past week we've been discussing internally, and we'll continue to discuss internally, pull that information together so that council, new and old council, can relook at all the issues that were identified in all those different options. So we'll try to get that together for the next council meeting.
Thank you. I have a general question for staff. If we can't get an answer in 2 weeks, when can we get an answer to the school district?
Well, I mean, I apologize. I wasn't here at the start of the meeting, but I just saw what these three options are. So my understanding is the third option is to reevaluate the Paola access points, and that is largely outside of our control because of the DOT process. The first option, it looks like, is a suggestion that the city exercise eminent domain over a city business, which has been discussed at length by the Common Council, and obviously you have the ability to change your mind if you want to, and there are a lot of new members, but I know that was, I believe, unanimously rejected as we were going through the earlier discussions. And so if we are more at, alternative 2, with an understanding that we would still look at alternative 3, but if we're at alternative 2, I'm going to have to defer to Theron and Jess on this probably, but that's going to require a look at what the costs are and a new analysis on the reallocation of how those costs should be distributed to the benefited properties. And so I would think that probably could be done within a month maybe 6 weeks, but, okay, well, okay, all right, I'm gonna stop talking and let these guys talk.
Thank you. Any of the options out here besides the ones that are identified in the developers agreement right now should really have the TIA updated, because once you change the improvements that are identified, you change the patterns and you change where the traffic is coming from and where the traffic is going to, which is going to impact any intersection whatsoever. Especially, not only that, we're talking about the outside being the public City of Verona transportation system, and also the school district internal system for the campus itself. How is the parent drop-off going to be changed? How is the bus circulation going to be changed? With option 2, the single access point, now you're putting those all to one location instead of, if there was 2 exits, 2 entrances, meaning 2 access points, you can segregate that traffic, which is how the setup was initially laid out and analyzed. So to do something in 2, 4, 6 weeks, update a TIA of this magnitude is not feasible.
Can I add something? And I would just note, I have received a copy of the offer that the school district made to the property owners, and there's language in this offer that I wholeheartedly agree with on behalf of the school district, and I'm just going to read it to you. It says, the school district is a public entity and as such is legally constrained to exercise discretion on behalf of its taxpayers in ways that do not exceed the bounds of reasonability. That is 100% true for the school district. It is also 100% true for the City of Verona. And I just make that statement to echo what, I don't have any idea what the time frame is for a TIA. Theron does. And to the extent that he said what he did, I would agree with that.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Alder Journey?
So which property would be infringed upon?
It's property, and you're asking about which property owners was the school district negotiating with? It was property, yeah, according to the offer, it was owned by Russell and Vicky Swigum.
And was that just vacant property, or?
No, there's a business that's operated on
There
the
is a
property.
business there. Can I ask which business? Or?
Do you know? I don't know.
Mr. Swigum owns S&E Excavating. It is a utility and underground grading company that he's owned and operated there for, I don't know how long, but as long as I've done work in Verona, which has been a decade. So he's an established business there.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Alder Kemp?
Yes, I'm a bit concerned with the limited options that we have at this late date. I do, however, want to make sure we're doing things right. But I also understand that the school district has a timeline that they need to try and meet. What do you think? I mean, I know you don't want to like lock down on any kind of number, but I heard something as far out as 6 months to get things updated. Is that something that's even? I mean, how are we going to get this done if it may take 4 to 6 months to get things adjusted?
The one thing that the City of Verona can do here is we can review things in a timely manner. We're the reviewing entity. We're not the doing entity, meaning the school district has to do the bulk of the work. We review it to make sure it meets not just city standards, but overall traffic industry standards. And just to kind of reiterate everything, once these improvements are done, these are the City of Verona's traffic problems, not the school district's problems. The phone calls are going to come to us if there's issues out here.
Just a follow up too. The idea of having one single access point to the new high school, with the size of the facility itself, the size of the city, all of that traffic coming in on that one space, is that even something that we should consider? I mean, there's a reason why we came up with the idea of having 2 access points to begin with.
Correct. One was traffic, 2 was also security reasons that the school district wanted, and for the internal circulation of their own site. So it was kind of a mutual, it's a mutual benefit there, that it was a win-win for obviously both parties when you look at the overall goals for traffic and then site circulation. Regarding a single access point for a destination, whether it's a school, a business, a athletic event, whatever it is not advised. I will admit their TIA identified a single access point, but we never approved their TIA because there was comments, results, inputs that we didn't agree with. So if you look at any of the schools in the vicinity, whether it's Dane County or even outside, I can't think of one of them that has a single access point. Maybe there's some out there, but you got to look at everything as a site-by-site evaluation. You can't just look at one thing and say, well, it works here, it'll work in Verona. Every location's different, every pattern's different. The way people drive, the time of the school, what other outside influences are impacting that background traffic, adjacent business owners. So I'm an engineer too, so I can't answer that tonight without, there's obviously educated guesses we can make, but this is not a spot where you make an educated guess and go with it. I do not feel comfortable doing that, and I would not put our engineers on the spot to do that either.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions, comments? I'm sure this has been asked before, but are there any other potential solutions we're missing? Because we got the 3 from President Roberts, but is there anything, has anyone had any, both the council and city staff, is there anything we're missing? Anyone have any bright ideas?
We'll open up the dartboard. That's what we're gonna have to do here. So I'll talk with our traffic engineers, and if the school district has any, it's gotta be a open dialogue discussion and work together to get a solution that works for everyone here.
If I may, when is the next meeting between city staff and school district staff?
I'll let Mr. McCorsky know, but to my knowledge, we have not scheduled one because we wanted to talk to the council first to get direction, and then we were going to brief as a internal city staff and then reach out to the school district. So quite soon.
It's soon, I hope. Alder Gaskell.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Roberts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't make him answer it, but
we'll see. Have you directed your consultants to sort of go back to the drawing board and assume that we're starting from scratch, or did you only say, look, these are the 3 options, we're not even going to consider that?
We've explored all possibilities, and this is what we came to under the constraints provided by the developers agreement. Right now, the developers agreement says that we actually must have 2 access points, otherwise the city can deny occupancy. So that means, if we take months or years to figure out a second access point, if we don't plan for a single access point, for example, the city has the right to deny occupancy, and we'll have a building sitting empty for months or years. So when I mean no disrespect when I ask for urgency. If the result of tonight is to explore other options, including a single access point, great, that's a step in the right direction. So I don't want any work to be rushed, but I do want to make it clear that we are working within the constraints that the city has provided. We're doing our best to explore the options that they've directed us to explore, as well as all the other options. And so when I mentioned the Paoli access route, we did look at it, but I feel as though we could have gone further in exploring what the DOT might have required in compensation. for Break-In Access. We contemplated millions of dollars worth of improvements as it relates to the potential 9-mound access point, but we didn't even get to a point where we contemplated improvements related to a PLI connector road. And so since we haven't been at that point, that's an option that we have not explored fully. So that's why I brought that forward as a potential option in the future.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thoughts? Alder Cronin?
This is a legal question. Can the developer agreement be amended?
I would say that the development agreement will have to be amended because the project as anticipated in the developer agreement is not going to end up happening based on the information that the school district attorney has provided to me. So, yeah, like I said before, I mean, as the city attorney, I'm not looking to recreate the whale or blow the thing up, but it's definitely going to have to be amended.
Any other questions, comments? I have a question for Mr. Roberts. Is this enough information? Like, obviously we're not going to get you on, I'm doubtful we can get you on your timeline that you want, but is this enough to, is this helpful, or is there anything else you're wondering, or?
Well, I think moving forward, we just want to make sure we do have open dialogue. I agree with Mr. Jacobson that that's the best way forward. And what we are looking for, and what we've looked for the last year, is a viable option that is supported by the city. We want to find an option that is mutually beneficial, and so what we ask is for, if there's an option that's identified that's mutually beneficial, to please let us know, and we're happy to work with you along the way. So I would say that we haven't gained too much information tonight, but to know that there will be conversations about alternatives is a step in the right direction.
Great. Last chance for questions or comments? Seeing none, we will go back to old business 11A. And can we get a summary before we entertain any motions to go into closed session? Okay.
So the item on the, I guess, 11A tonight is discussion on the Sugar Creek Commons Developers Agreement. And just, I guess, I'll give some background on kind of the project. I think some of you were here, some of you haven't been here. This is a project, a redevelopment project on West Verona Avenue. It extends from Legion Street pretty much down to just east of St. Vincent de Paul. So it's that kind of block along Verona Avenue, includes the old truck stop, includes the old Avenue Auto, the car wash, and then it also goes south as well to most of the apartment buildings along Top Avenue as well. So it covers approximately 6-7 acres in size. We did approve a project, what's called a precise implementation plan for the redevelopment of that in September of 2017. And that project consisted of 243 apartment units and approximately 23,500 square feet of commercial space. We have also discussed with the council and the plan commission in the last few months about a potential hotel as part of the project as well, and potential convention space as well too. The applicant actually today or last week submitted potential revisions to the general development plan, and that would be changes to the overall project. So we did approve that 243 units in September. They are now looking at approximately up to 297 units for the project, and they're looking at approximately 26,000 square feet of commercial space along Verona Avenue. As part of this as well, the height of the project, the mixed-use portion of it, and the multifamily building that's behind the mixed-use portion, that would increase in height from what was approved at 3 stories and then be expanded to 4 stories. So in a nutshell, that's the basic project. The amendments would be going back to the Plan Commission with a public hearing in August. And depending on the action of the Plan Commission, it could potentially come to the council in August as well too. Kind of covers my portion. I'll turn to Mr. Kleimler.
And I would say that we have had, not necessarily recently, but certainly earlier part of this year, some pretty significant discussions with the developer on a potential tax incremental financing agreement related to the project. And I think part of what we have had a development agreement that we have prepared and sent to the developer. We have had comments and changes from the developer, and I think that the reason for going into closed session is really twofold, at least from city staff's perspective. First of all, to discuss some of those terms and conditions within the development agreement, which we need to know what the council's position is going to be on those. And this is a bargaining issue, and so we need to be able to have that discussion in closed session. We also want to be able to discuss some monetary aspects related to the requests that the developer has made that are over and above, I would say, the what we initially anticipated potentially providing to them. And that is also another component of bargaining that city staffs would request occur in closed session.
I have a question. Is the amount of commercial space, is that an increase, staying the same, decrease?
It's a slight increase, but relatively the same.
So then, just so I have this clear in my head, the main point would be to discuss monetary things, because like when I look at things like unit size, density, commercial space, how tall buildings are, to me that's public policy.
I would agree with you. That's not going to be part of the discussion.
Okay, can we discuss that now then?
Well, I'm not sure if there's really, I mean,
it's not on the agenda for that,
Okay.
so I guess my comments to that would be no. I would prefer it would not be discussed, and hopefully it get discussed at the council meeting in August.
Thank you for the clarification. All right, if it's just going to be monetary, a motion to go into closed session would be in order.
So moved.
My apologies, it has to be read.
Okay.
Alder Gaskell.
You ready? All right. The Common Council may convene in a closed session as authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.851, parent E, for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons deemed a closed session necessary. Common Council may reconvene in an open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session.
Motion by Alder Gaskell, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Touche. And of course, this will be a roll call vote, if the clerk would read the roll.
Alder Journey,
Aye.
Alder Kemp,
Aye.
Alder Cole,
Aye.
Alder Ricky,
Aye.
Alder Touche,
Aye.
Alder Cronin,
Aye.
Alder Gaskell.
Aye.
And with that, we are in closed. We got one more thing, but actually we are back in open session. We had a lot of discussion regarding the developers agreement for Sugar Creek Commons. I don't think there was anything else anyone else wanted to say in open session. So we'll move on to number 12, new business, discussion and possible action regarding the approval of the operator licenses.
Presented by the city clerk.
As presented by the city clerk, the operators are as followed: Sarah Cool, Debbie Bushy, Lucas Dendas, Brian Gill, Brittany Hewitt, Jenda Schultz, Thomas Bishop, Terry Soros, Deborah Blum, Courtney Thiel, Mana Azet, Lauren Muir, and Anthony Williams.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Kemp. All those in favor of approving the operator's license, say aye. Opposed, no. All right, we are on to number 13, adjournment. Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Reiki, I think. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Opposed, no. And we are adjourned. Thank you.